Hello, my name is Anthony Hamilton Russell. I'm the owner of Hamilton Russell Vineyards. This September will mark my 33rd year on the property. We're a specialist in Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. We make a single red wine, a single white wine, no reserves, no second labels, and we pioneered our area called Hamilton Russell Valley. It means heaven and earth valley in Afrikaans or Old Dutch. We're only 1,500 meters from the cool South Atlantic Ocean, just a little bit in that direction to the south. There's nothing between us and Antarctica, just a little more, 5,400 kilometers or so to the south. And the summer breeze is off that cold current coming up from Antarctica and Walker Bay, a stone's throw from our property. We're proud to have pioneered the area where there are now 22 producers and growing. Back in 1975, when my father bought the land, we planted the first vines in 1976, and our first Pinot Noir was made in 1981. So this year we're celebrating 44 vintages of Hamilton Russell Vineyards Pinot Noir and 43 vintages of Hamilton Russell Vineyards Chardonnay. We're incredibly proud to be tasting what is quite a special vertical with RNG's customers, and welcome to all of you to the Hamilton Russell Vineyards Pinot Noir and Hamilton Russell Vineyards Chardonnay. This is a photograph looking up the Hamilton Valley, Heaven and Earth Valley. We're located here, Hamilton Russell Vineyards, long, thin 170 hectare property running down the back of this range, really close to the cold South Atlantic Walker Bay and the small seaside resort town of Hermanus. We're surrounded by nature reserve in the wine area, which is the size of Manhattan Island, with the vineyard plantings being not much bigger than Central Park. And this is a very rare vegetation type with numerous species, more species of flowers than there are in the whole of the United Kingdom. It's an area of great beauty, and we'd love you to come and visit us one day. That monopole, which is reflected through a single Pinot Noir and a single Chardonnay, is over here. The 52 hectares, facing basically northeast, and some vineyards a little northwest. The same as southeast and southwest in the northern hemisphere. And we can hear the sea on the rocks at night from where I live up at the top of the property, and sometimes with a small onshore breeze we can smell it. So unusually close to the ocean, very much a maritime climate. Don't think of us as a warm, dry area. We get more rainfall than London. Our average is 841 millimeters per year, and last year we got 1,406 millimeters of rain. In terms of temperature, the average of our hottest days for the 4 hottest months, building up to and during harvest, is 24.63 centigrade. Burgundy, for the same period in the northern hemisphere, is 24.7 degrees. So we are in essence very much a cool climate producing area, and we don't suffer from dryness as can be the case further inland in South Africa. This is a scale map of Hamilton Russell Vineyards. It's 170 hectares in total. The sea would be about where the thatch is on the roof over there, and we go from 305 meters above sea level down to around 60 meters above sea level over there. So what this shows is private nature reserve, olive grove, my home on the property built in 1996, and then sandstone soils and very clay-rich shale-derived soils. So Hamilton Russell Vineyards Pinot Noir and Chardonnay is made exclusively on this soil type. We think of this area of the property, 52 hectares, as our monopole. So we own the whole thing, and it is reflected through a single red wine, which happens to be Pinot Noir, a single white wine, which happens to be Chardonnay. And those varieties basically had the most beautiful thing to say about this precious bit of ground. 400 million year old shale with extremely iron and clay rich soil formed on top of it. So when you drink Hamilton Russell Vineyards anywhere in the world, you know precisely where it's come from. Next to the little seaside resort town of Hermanus, 1,500 meters from the cool South Atlantic Ocean from the top of the property, and very close to the southern tip of the African continent. This is a real treat that RNG Wines has put on for you, and we're incredibly proud to show these two rare verticals in your market. The Pinot Noir, 15, 16 and 17, comes packed in a box of 3. What makes these wines special is it's the same wine as the one we released and sold out of, but we've held it back on the property to acquire additional age, and then sold it later as a pack of 3 for people that would like the chance to experience the wine over different vintages and at different ages. And to mark these wines out, each of them has an artwork from my collection of South African artwork at home. Modern, old and modern generally. I haven't tasted one of these verticals for quite some time. We have none left. This is from our library stock. And then the Chardonnay, same vintages, 15, 16 and 17. We tend to taste Pinot Noir before Chardonnay here, but it's up to you what you would like to do. And once again, the artwork on the back label, the same on the Chardonnays, the Pinot for each vintage. I have a glass of 2022 Pinot Noir in my hand, and I'm looking forward to having an odd sip of this while I talk about these vintages. So you're going to taste the 22s at the end of each of these, this range of 3 from the vertical. 2015 goes down as one of the great vintages in the Cape, and like a lot of great vintages, it was known for this beautiful sensuality and openness. The wines tended to be on the big, soft and open side of things and very forthcoming, and that's reflected in these 2 wines. This 15 Chardonnay was number 11 on the Wine Spectator Top 100 Wines of the Year worldwide. That was the 3rd time that we've been on that list for our Chardonnay. We've been on that list twice for our Pinot Noir, and at the highest position for a South African red wine as well. So you should enjoy the 15s. They will be open-fruited, easy, and for our wines on the slightly bigger side. 2016 was altogether a more structured and muscular vintage. You should feel the presence of tannins a little bit more markedly in our 16, and that's very consistent with the high clay content and the high iron content of our soils from our monopole on our property. And the 16 Chardonnay as well will have that little hint of hardness to it versus the 15. And it's a vintage we like, and one, certainly in the case of the Pinot Noir, we expect to age particularly well. Then when we get to the 17s, this was another great vintage for the Cape. And what was great about it was very different to what was great about the 15. 17 was altogether a vintage that was more light of step and elegant. And for an industry not always known for a great degree of elegance, 17 almost imposed that on us, and some of the great wines at the Cape were made from the 17 vintage. The Pinot Noir on release was a little lighter, a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit more red fruited, but as it's developed and aged in the bottle, it's really come into its own, and we're loving it more and more. Same case for the 17 Chardonnay. Now when you taste these wines, the Pinot Noirs will have started moving into that more umami, savory stage. They won't just be about primary fruit, and that is always to us a point of excitement in the wine. In the case of the Chardonnays, the primary fruit characteristics, which we tend to find on our newly released Chardonnay, will have started to develop something a little richer and a little bit more different and secondary, and adding interest to that primary fruit. What you may find in the Chardonnays is that some of them will have picked up a slightly deeper color. That is not something to worry about. That doesn't mean oxidation, it doesn't mean damage. It just means that the wine has developed somewhat. And I've had lectures in the past from some of our colleagues in Burgundy about minding about that too much. In case of very old Chardonnay, it can often end up looking a little bit like the color of cognac, and that can be very worrying to a consumer. But as long as the wine is alive and bright, the acidity is there, the flavor's there, and the characters are not excessively tertiary, that can be a good thing. It can be an addition of complexity to the wine. We really hope you enjoy these wines, and I'm incredibly proud that they're being tasted on the other side of the world. The 22 vintages you're going to have are very typical for Hamilton Russell Vineyards. The Pinot Noir has that characteristic muscularity, dark spice, restraint. It's not too forward-fruited, and it's the epitome of what our terroir does best. And it's unusual to find Pinot Noir with that level of structure, spice, and tannin coming so effortlessly in the new world. It's more common to find Pinot Noir that's very forward-fruited, but lacks that structural element and that dark spice. In the case of the 22 Chardonnay, it was one of our more linear, tight, mineral, austere Chardonnays on release, but it's had enough time now, a little bit of time in the bottle to develop some real secondary interest and a little bit more texture on the palate. I really hope you love these wines, and I'd very much like to hear what you think of them all. It's an honor that you're tasting them.